What's up, guys? So today there's a video that I checked out thanks to one of my subscribers, Don Bender, sent me a link. Thank you very much. Keeping me up to date about motorsports. President Stephen Hood talking about this British touring car championship game that I talked about in one of my previous videos. One of the titles they are developing. So even though he does not address NASCAR in any way in this video, very briefly, but only in connection to other things, I still think there's a lot you can get from this video if you want to know more about Motorsport Games and the direction they're heading. And I'm going to go through a couple of spots in the video that I found interesting. I'm not going to play the whole video. You guys can check out the video in its entirety. I'll put the link in the description box for you guys. But the parts that I found most interesting that I think are relatable to the future of these NASCAR games and this company. And I'll try to do my best to interpret what I got out of it, which is speculation. It's not like based on any hardcore facts, but I listen, I watch, and then I'll tell you what I think. And then, you guys can let me know what you think as well. So we're going to start off at a point. Well, before I get into that, in the early part of the video, they talk about who Stephen Hood is and his background, his experience. And before I get into everything else, I will say this. One thing I think is a very big positive is that it seems to me he is very experienced in the world of not just game development, but motorsports. And he seems to have more of a hardcore view of things than like a arcadey, an arcadey view of things. Like, I don't know if I worded it correctly, but in either case, the guy has a lot of experience. Not just at Codemasters, the guy has a very extensive background in development, simulation, he mentioned. So I like what I'm hearing. This isn't somebody who's just some young kid out of college and is just into the numbers game. In other words, just looking at things from purely a business standpoint of how do we make a profit out of a license. Of course, that's a part of it. It's a business at the end of the day, but he really does sound like he is into the actual product and the quality and having goals, which sound to me like they're aiming for more than just what we've seen in recent years with NASCAR games, which are a lot more on the arcadey side, and really the aim wasn't high enough. So let me just move on to the important stuff. So at this stage right here, they're going to talk a little bit about arcade versus sim. Again, they're only discussing this British touring car game. However, I do think a lot of what he talks about is applicable because it's also an insight into Motorsport Games and what they hope to achieve. So enough of that. Let's get into it.
We've seen single series games like Assetto Corsa Competizione are very, very simulation oriented.
Fantastic product. Love it. A fantastic product. All credit to them for delivering something like that. In terms of where the BTCC game would sit, our technology is certainly capable of delivering what Assetto is delivering in terms of the simulation, the fidelity of the simulation, the visuals. And that's when I'm talking about the core technology that we're working on. That's, for us, incredibly important. There's a lot of the team that have worked with me and around me previously at other companies in the past. And one of the things that we very quickly identified internally when forming Motorsport Games was, what are the pitfalls that we would like to avoid when starting out again. Very rarely do you get a blank sheet of paper.
Okay, let me just interrupt. First of all, this British game, touring car game. Um, I don't. They're just. I don't think this is the game itself. I think they're just putting up photos of what these cars are like, and for people who don't know anything about it, I have seen some footage. I really like what I'm seeing. I mean, it looks like a cool uh, project. Okay, it's definitely something I would definitely check out in the future, and certainly more interesting for me than I'm just not a fan of open car racing, open wheel racing, I should say, like Formula One and stuff like that. Uh, I'm not I mean, I'm not disparaging open wheel racing. It's just not my cup of tea. I much prefer GT style racing, these type of cars, touring cars, and of course stock cars and NASCAR and stuff like that. That's more of what I gravitate to. So this it sounds like a really cool project. Also, they mentioned Assetto Corsa. Never played, but I do understand that it's pretty much a sim. So he says they have the capability, and it sounds to me like they want to aim for something closer to that, in as at least as far as this game goes, which is good news for people that are into this game. But I'm hoping that this is also the way they're viewing all of their projects, right, including NASCAR, to aim higher, give us a little more of a sim, and like I'll talk more about it. Let this play on.
You know, a development house normally you have to take into consideration, as we all do, you know, financial constraints, the technology that already exists, the market that you own. All of that was start afresh for us. So we could cherry pick the kind of things that we wanted to deliver, and it was important to get the right technology to enable us to create a wide variety of games. It's very easy to detune if you ever need to a high-end product with, you know, let's say a complex physics model, than it is to take something that is more arcade in nature and try to dial it up for a more discerning audience.
I love that. That's what I want to hear. I want these guys to aim higher, and like he said, it's easier to create something that's at a higher standard, something a little more hardcore of a sim, and detune it if you have to make it more palatable to a wider audience, a more casual audience, right? And it's harder to do that if you're just like build an arcadey type game and then you try to make it something a little more sim. It's easier to detune something that's already at a higher quality. And I love that. I want these guys to aim higher. And he's not saying, yeah, build a full-blown simulator and then try to, tweak it down to more arcadey stuff. There's like an in-between type thing. So I like hearing that, and that's what I want to hear.
And I think BTCC sits somewhere in between, because we're not making an arcade game, but I don't need to make a high-end hardcore racing simulation, because BTCC I think historically sits in that bracket where the cars should drive in an authentic manner. The core simulation should be authentic, but if you look at the sport, it's incredibly complex. The cars are in fractions of seconds of one another. There are standards there. The competition is very high, and we want the same kind of drama experience for our product. So I think what I'm saying is I have this wonderful cupboard of tech and great talent, and we can determine the kind of product that we would like to deliver.
Again, like he said, he doesn't have to turn this into a full-blown simulator. He's looking for somewhere in between. That's exactly what I would do if I was like in charge, right? I've always talked about like how I would do things or what I would aim for. That is definitely the direction I would push, right? You definitely want to get out of that arcadiness and push a little more hardcore, better physics, more realistic sense of immersion on the track, but you don't want to go too far, right? Because at the end of the day, you still want to appeal to a wider audience, and you don't need a full-blown simulator to make a really solid game. Now, if you look at Formula One 2020, that game, from everyone that has played it, from everything I've heard, people love it. It's deep, it's immersive. It's not a simulator, right? So I think they found a good balance between simulation and arcade, and that's what I'm hoping to see with a NASCAR game. So he's talking about this British touring car game, but I think it's applicable to all of their projects. I don't think he's going to have that point of view for this particular game and then turn around and then try to push for a NASCAR game that's just really arcadey. I think it sounds to me like this is a vision for the overall company and all of their projects. Okay? And I love hearing this. This is what I want to hear. This isn't a guarantee of anything, and it's not really even giving you specific information that you can say, okay, he specifically said this about the next NASCAR game, but you have to interpret this stuff. And I remember in my conversation with him earlier this year, he's saying a lot of the same stuff and what's important and what they're aiming for, and I like that. There's consistency there, and I'm getting a sense. Listen, I'm not, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not a professional psychologist or anything, but I do read people, and I look at people's body language when they talk, when they say certain things. Sometimes it's not just what you say, but how you say it, and that can help give you some insight into how genuine somebody is, or what they're telling you, how factual it is, or whether they're bullshitting you or not, so to speak. And I like what I'm hearing. It sounds to me like he is not just, like I said, he's not just some numbers cruncher or some guy who's just there to look at things from the business side of things. They really want to create games that people feel are higher quality. So I like that. This is good stuff.
Will you be using your own game engine, or will you be using something like Unity or something like that to develop this?
We will be using somebody else's core technology. We will not be using Unity. 704 Games, who were the original publisher of the NASCAR Heat franchise that is now within Motorsport Games, that product line uses Unity. We are moving away from that. We moved away from the external developer that created the NASCAR Heat games. They work on other products now.
He's talking about Motorsport Games. They were the actual developer. They've moved on. These developers were hired by 704, who was the publisher. You guys know this already, but just in case some of you are still not aware. And now Motorsport Games is the publisher, and they have taken 704, and they've added people, developers, into the team, and they're the ones that are going to be building the NASCAR games. So this isn't the same old 704. A lot of those people left. They retained some of those people, and they hired additional people. It just sounds to me like these guys are experienced, and Stephen Hood in particular. This, like I said, he's not just some guy out of college doing this for the first time, trying to figure it out. He's experienced. He's been through this. He's been on the development side of things. So now he's in charge, and he's the one doing the hiring and overseeing the projects. So that's great, because that's what you want. You want a guy that was in the development side of things, who understands what can and can't be done, the limitations, the things that are possible, and what do you look for when you hire developers. He knows what they need. So I like the way that things seem to be structured and how they're going about things. So good stuff, in my opinion. Again, I don't want to get carried away and make big assumptions, but all I can do is give you my how I feel about what I'm hearing. So I like so far what I'm hearing.
704 Games were
Oh, and they, obviously no more Unity engine. They're going in a different direction. And he said they're going to use someone else's core technology. I guess, are you just using someone's game engine? Or are you using maybe assets of an engine and adding your own stuff? I'm still not 100% clear on that. And that's really technical stuff over my head. But let's see what else he has to say.
revitalized as a developer in their own right and are contributing to the technology that we're working on. So whilst I won't really talk about the technology that we are using, if you take Unity away from the equation, I think people can quickly work out the kind of intent that we have. Really, the technology gives us the new technology gives us a greater headroom. It really is about what you do with it, which is why we tried to add some really good talent to the company to take advantage of this opportunity. And BTCC is a big part of that. We're really excited about it. So
Again, I like that he keeps reminding you that they're looking to step things up. You know, they want to impress people. Right now, I'm not saying that they're looking to be. Put it this way: early on in this video, he talked about uh, making an impact in this motorsports gaming industry. They want to make a name for themselves. They're not just there to be like, okay, we're cashing in on a license. So that's all good stuff. You have to have higher goals. And even if you don't reach those goals, you definitely surpass what was done before. And one thing I'm really uh, happy about is these guys do seem not only to be experienced, but there seems to be quite a bit more financial backing, more people involved. I'm just tired of, we started with Utechnics and then 704, small companies and not enough resources. And I'm just tired of that. Um, these guys seem to be better equipped and have bigger plans. And I don't really think that I could be, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Doesn't sound to me like they're going to have issues in acquiring talent and actually investing in resources. So this is good stuff to me. Okay? Just taking what I'm hearing, I like what I'm hearing. And you got to start somewhere. So as a first step, I like everything I'm hearing. I know some of you guys are going to say to yourself, well, what about NASCAR Heat 5? I'm not happy about the way they released it. They made a couple of decisions early on where we're just going to release the game early and all the issues. I'm not going to rehash that. However, they weren't really developing that game. They just came in and took over. And that game was already 90% in the box. So some of it, they have to take responsibility making some of these decisions. But the game itself, I don't want to hold that against them. I'm looking forward. I want to see what their official products are from this point forward. So this game is not slated to come out till 2022. And there's no confirmation, but I do believe the next NASCAR game is probably going to be before this game. Who knows? We don't know for sure, but that's what so far things are seem like that's where they're going. So let's move on.
So, in terms of the game itself, the old Toka Touring Cars games that they included some of the support series.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about the touring car. I want to move forward to. I got a timestamp here. I don't want to waste too much time. All right,
sports news.
Okay.
Well, obviously a lot of hardcore sim racing enthusiasts have some pretty hardcore questions with about things like laser scanning tracks and that sort of thing. Is that something that you guys plan to do for the tracks in the series?
It's a real possibility. I mean, we are talking about it for one of the projects that we're working on at the moment that ships before BTCC. So we have the capability to do that. We're talking.
Again, sounds exciting. Now he said they're talking about it, so there's nothing hardcore. But he said one of the projects that's slated to come out before this BTCC game. I have to assume that's the NASCAR game, right? Because so far they're in talks about IndyCar. That's not even, that's still in the stage of let's try to acquire that license so we can create a game in the future. So what else could they be talking about? Unless there's another project that nobody knows about. Who knows, right? But I think it's a high probability he's talking about the next NASCAR game. And he's saying that there's a possibility they're looking at laser scanning tracks. You wouldn't consider that unless, like I said, if the game is really going to be sort of like what the latest NASCAR Heat games are, you don't need laser scanning. Laser scanning is when you really want to bump up the physics and the realism. So there's no hardcore, like, yeah, we're doing it, but he's leaning like, hey, we're talking about it. So I think that bodes well for what they want to do with the next NASCAR game, assuming that's what he's talking about. So
to scanning companies, we're accessing data. I think it's a natural extension for us to be looking at that for BTCC. But there isn't a great deal of point for us in using a very complex simulation engine if we don't have that kind of fidelity to the data and the content within the game. So whilst I haven't signed those things on the dotted line, I could say that it's a distinct possibility.
Okay. Again, he went back to BTCC, and he said, well, there's no point in raising that physics model if you're not going to laser scan. And he said there's a high probability that he's going to sign on the dotted line. In other words, they're really leaning towards going to laser scanning and all that stuff. That's what I want to hear from a company that is a little more serious about what they want to do with these games. So, yeah, he's talking about BTCC, but he did briefly mention a game that's coming out before that. And to me, as a company, I think that you're looking at this kind of stuff for all your projects. If you're a motorsports gaming company that's making these games and you want to be taken seriously, yes, I think they are raising the bar. They are trying at least to aim for higher goals. And he's talking about laser scanning and the high probability that they're going to go in that direction. And it doesn't make sense not to if you are going to raise the overall physics engine of these games. So, good stuff.
So I'm thinking of some of the current things like F1 2020. There's a whole aspect around that of creating your own team, running your own team, being the driver manager. Is that something that you're looking into, being the 17th team on the grid, is it?
Yes. I mean, the Formula One team, who I have the utmost respect for because, they finally delivered on the vision to add the My Team feature that I think we all wanted to add to Formula One at the very beginning. Understandably, that with Formula One in the past, that could have been a bit of a political and business minefield, but they've delivered on it in 2020, and congratulations. I think that opens the doors for us. But to be perfectly honest, with BTCC and Alan, they are very open to us doing these kind of things, and I think in a product that we would launch in a couple of years, it makes perfect sense to have an in-depth career mode in there where you could build your team. For me, it's a no-brainer and the kind of thing that we want to deliver. This isn't just a a single track, single car time trial experience. This is the full fat experience that BTCC deserves, and I think an in-depth career mode makes perfect sense.
That's what you want to hear. Now, yes, again, he's talking about this particular game, but it doesn't make sense that he's saying, yeah, this is the direction we're going in. It makes sense. No hesitation. Why would you only be talking about one game? I think this is what the overall scope of things is going to be. Again, I'm just speculating, but that's what I want to hear. So, and when I spoke to him, I made it very clear. I said, listen, man, we want to make sure that we get the career mode, all the offline stuff. I got to pause for a second. Hold on. Hello, engineers. Yes, it'll be back on after 4 o'clock. All right, no problem. All right. Sorry about that. People are calling about not having air conditioning, and the AC's off in the building because of energy requirements, and I told them it'll be back on soon. So anyway, sorry about that, but I like what I'm hearing. They understand, and when I spoke to Steve Hood, he assured me they are well aware that's what they want to do. They understand the importance of off-track, offline content, career mode, presentation, all that stuff. So they get it. You know, whether that means we're going to get this stuff, I mean, only the future can tell. Or in either case, it's a first step, and I like hearing this.
So BTCC, of course, has a long history of some very famous cars, some very beloved cars.
He's going to move on to something else. Let me get to the last. All right.
Game development and in this world, so you know what it takes to put together a high-level title like this. What do you expect will be one of the biggest challenges for the development team and to actually get this product out the door?
I think the biggest challenge, if I'm perfectly honest, is going to be meeting our own quality benchmarks, our own aspirations for the project. I have been a developer for many a year. I'm not, in a primary development role anymore. So I've been trying to recruit the people that will make a difference. And, I've people like Anthony Felice, who was art director on Forza Horizon, who also used to be my original art director on Formula One. We have Paul Coleman as creative director for the company, who's looking after all of the design-related decisions, the driving, everything around the quality of the product and the experience. He started the Dirt Rally franchise when not many people believed in that franchise internally, to be honest, from a business perspective, but it's become phenomenally successful. So I'm delighted to say that these this caliber of talent is already within Motorsport Games. We haven't been shouting about that right now, but it's very important. I mean, getting the license in, convincing people to partner with us is one thing, but recruiting the right kind of people that can make a difference to these projects is crucial. So I think the biggest challenge is a lot of the team across development, the esports group that we have in Silverstone, even the marketing and PR team are hugely enthusiastic about BTCC. So we all have, a very high benchmark, and we've got to quickly attain that. We're very proud about the kind of things that we're building, and I think we'll be our own harshest critics. Although I'm sure once it's out in the wild, there'll be a few comments here and there.
Alright, listen, that's pretty much it. So yeah, they're really just talking about BTCC, but as a company, I heard everything not everything, but most of what I want to hear. And I like the direction. I think that this company isn't, one thing I just don't want to hear anymore about: small developer, small company, small publisher, not enough resources. I'm just sick to death of that, and hopefully, and from the sound of it, it seems to be like these guys are legit. There's more resources, and they have higher aspirations. And like he said, you got to hire the right people. Some of the people he talked about and where they came from, sounds good. These are experienced people, and I am excited for the future. There's a lot left to be seen. We've been fooled before, but I really feel like these guys are different from, with this 704 and this Heat franchise and Eutechnics. These guys just seem like a bigger entity, more resources. And I like everything I hear from Stephen Hood, and he's very experienced. This is not his first go around. He seems to have a firm grasp of what consumers are looking for. Those are pretty much my thoughts. I want to once again thank Don Bender, one of my subs, for sending me the link. You guys always keep me up to date on what's going on, and I'm usually the last to know about a lot of stuff. So without you guys, where would I be? So, I hope you guys found that somewhat insightful, or at least get you to feel a little bit more enthusiastic about the future. And I look forward to your comments. Later.